Well, we are following an NBC 26 weather alert. We have frost advisories issued north and west of the Fox Valley for tonight into tomorrow morning. The low temperature in Green Bay this morning was 31. We did not have a freeze warning or a frost advisory because tomorrow is the day that the National Weather Service starts issuing frost advisories and freeze warnings. So that's why we have one for tonight into tomorrow morning. Temperatures north and west of the Fox Valley will be dipping down into the lower and mid 30s. Cover tender plants and bring potted plants inside. Nina?
Thanks, Cameron. Well, this morning it was about 31 degrees outside in Green Bay. That's nearly 10 degrees colder than the average this time of the year. And if you've started your spring planting a little early, you'll have to keep a close eye on your plants over the next few days. NBC 26's Eric Crest has that story.
At Rosehill Gardens in Howard, the spring blossoms are drawing in the crowds.
I think this year especially a lot of people felt trapped in their homes and they were just looking for a place to go.
Leo Bordillo, the owner here of this budding perennial nursery, says the recent weather has been good for his flowers, but it's what's in store for the next several days that's a concern.
We get fooled a little bit by a nice warm spell like we just had this past weekend. Not always realizing that, well, what's coming up here this next weekend is so different.
Frost will likely be a part of our mornings in parts of northeast Wisconsin for the next several days.
Potentially very harmful to some of these plants.
And with so many people growing a green thumb during this stay-at-home order, we figured we'd share some tips on how to protect your plants.
Impatience especially.
Leo says the easiest thing we can do to protect our budding friends is to drape a cloth, like a bed sheet, over your garden at night.
Make sure it's like a type of cloth that can offer a lot of protection to the plant, keeps the frost from settling right on the plant itself.
The most vulnerable are plants like impatiens, geraniums, and tender veggies like peppers and tomatoes. But if you can't cover them with a cloth, Leo says try using a 5-gallon bucket to keep the frost out. Or, if it's not planted, you could just bring them indoors.
Like a shed or a garage is plenty sufficient. They don't need to come right into your house where it's warm.
These are some of the simple things you can do to try to hold on to some of the beauty that spring has given us. And with low 30-degree temps headed our way, the alternative isn't quite as pretty.
Like anybody else, some of these plants are going to need to brought in, and it's going to be a lot of extra work, but it's going to be worth it, of course, to save them.
In Howard, Eric Crest, NBC 26.
Eric, thank you. Leo says a tender plant with no protection from the frost isn't necessarily mean the end of that plant. He encourages people not to give up on them for at least a few weeks to find out if you can nurse them back to health.